1, 2, 1, 2. Can we kindly ask everyone to come forward, please? We are ready to start. Could we occupy the chairs in front? Ryan, could you assist me in getting some of the persons closer to the front, please?
I will.
Thank you. Thanks, Minister. As I ask Mr. Michael Lucas to do a very brief opening prayer for us, please.
Let's bow our hearts in prayer, please. Father, as I come to you this afternoon, Lord, in this meeting, Father, I ask you, God, to bring peace, love, and unity to this meeting today. Bless every heart, Lord. Father, I ask these words in your name. Amen.
Issues of desilting and creation of ponds and so on for your and fisheries, the Honorable Boindradat Tiwari, your Member of Parliament for Karani Central, members, the President of the Agricultural Society on her way and directors of the Agricultural Society present, distinguished members of staff of the Ministry, Land and Fisheries, who comprise the technical and professional team accompanying the Honorable Minister from the various departments, including Engineering, State Lands, Commissioner of State Lands, Agri-Services, and other interested divisions. Vice Chairman of the Kuva Tabaki Talparo Regional Corporation, Mr. Ryan Rambharat, representing the Kuva Tabaki Talparo Corporation at this meeting. Members of the Agri-Business Society, agro-shops, etc. Our valued stakeholder, you, the farmers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Let me firstly thank the Honorable Minister for immediately agreeing to not only attend this meeting facilitated by your Member of Parliament, Dr. Tiwari, but also to provide critical support to the views and the problems that this congregation, you hear from the Central Food Basket, will need with a view to identifying solutions that have been plaguing our farmers for many years, and in some instances, as much as decades. Ladies and gentlemen, it was at this very location 3 years ago at the Tree Roads Development Center in January 2016 that a similar meeting was convened through the Member of Parliament at which the Honorable Minister was there. And we would recognize that the key issues affecting the farmer in this agricultural sector, they were identified and the need to be addressed. In that period between then and now, many issues, unfortunately, continue to plague this sector and continue to affect you, our vital stakeholder, the farmer, and you, our constituents from Karani Central. It is important that the Member of Parliament keep these issues burden on the table, because in doing his weekly walkabouts and doing his weekly meetings with constituents, we were able to conduct a need analysis and a priority listing of what is important to you. And I dare tell you that farming and agricultural issues were very much to the top of the list, together with things like water management, infrastructure development, security, of course, and of course there's health issues that plague this community. My job is very simple here today. There's not going to be much speaking to you, but we are going to do some listening and some responding to your problems. Fortunately for me, I had a chat with one of the members of the technical team earlier, and I realized that these persons in their position have come here to help you. They have come here with solutions. They have come here to take your complaint today and address your complaints on an individual basis as well as a group. We know that the majority of issues affecting you all include issues of land management, issues of land tenure, issues of pesticide control, issues of access roads, issues of desilting and creation of ponds and so on for your water supply, which is becoming rapidly the scarcest resource that you need to farm these lands. So, without further ado, I hand you over for brief remarks from your Honourable Member of Parliament, Dr. Botawari.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Brothers and sisters, our chairman for today is Dr. Anil Rambharat, who manages the Office of the Member of Parliament on Mission Road in Freeport. And Anil has had some experience in the Ministry of Agriculture, and he himself is a qualified vet. Honourable Minister, I want to take the opportunity to welcome you once more to the constituency of Darnay Central. I thank you very much for coming, your readiness and willingness to engage the farmers here. And more than that, your collaborative approach whenever I raise issues with you to try and get them resolved. I also want to welcome the officials of the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. I thank you very much for coming. I take it as an act of goodwill that you've come, because many of the problems that we have cannot be handled directly by the Honourable Minister, even though he has the best will in the world, and the technical officers are so critical in helping us to resolve those issues. Vice Chairman for the Cuba Tabaqui Talparo Corporation, I want to thank you for coming. I know you also have an interest in agricultural matters. Members of the Agricultural Society of Trinidad and Tobago, I don't see anyone except Ryan here yet, but I'm sure some of them will come. Members of my own staff, very hardworking and committed to the people. And all the farmers, all of you who are here who are involved in farming or agriculture-related activities, and all the well-wishers of farmers in Darnay Central. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to use this meeting to address solutions. I want the many problems of farmers whom we meet every day, and problems that we hear every day, to be solved, and especially the issues of production and marketing, those dimensions of agriculture. We feel it is important to have them properly addressed. And what I will do is to raise some issues and suggest some solutions to the Honourable Minister, who will speak after myself. And I want to make this not a problem and complaining event, but a solution finding event. So if you can work with me to help me to do that. I'm sure the minister would be happy to also collaborate on that. The first issue, which I know is big on your mind, is agricultural leases and the regularization of state land farmers. This is an urgent matter that has remained on the back burner for too long. It deprives the farmer of a green farmer's badge. It deprives the farmer of agricultural loans, of lawful tenancy to address crime issues related to trespassing and predatory larceny. We have been working with the minister on this issue in Tyranny Central. So far, 40 farmers have been processed and forwarded to the minister. 9 more have been processed as of today, and I will give that to the Honorable Minister. I think we sent it by email today, and we will continue to work with farmers. I say to the farmers, if you have issues, please come, because sometimes it's very hard. I know what your schedule is like, and it's very hard. But if you work with us in the office, we will go more than 3/4 way to meet you to solve some of the problems and to work with the ministry. So we have an agronomist at the office, Mr. Ignat Singh, and he's been working dedicatedly with the farmers on this issue of land regularization and then. But even those farmers who have received our special attention remain estranged from the wider opportunities. The wider opportunities being access to finance, being registered as a farmer, having the benefits accessible, etc. Beyond this, I want to recommend this evening to the Honorable Minister that perhaps we can establish in this country a new system where farmers awaiting regularization are given a form of documentation which can be beneficially used until lawful leases are granted. And this documentation, whether it is a card or whether it is a document that they carry, will allow them, through this temporary documentation, to clear the way to allow farmers to apply for a green farmer's badge, agricultural loans, and give them status to approach the police to address issues of infringement of the law against them. The temporariness puts the farmers in a zone of no man's land, and we need to resolve that issue. The second issue I want to raise, and it's important in this dry season, don't mind we have a little drizzle now. There is a genuine need, which is especially urgent in this dry season, and that is, I want to ask the Minister of Agriculture if he would agree to assist all farmers with excavation of the agricultural ponds and or water connections as a matter of course. I think if he agrees in principle, we could work out a formula for making it possible. A system needs to be established for easy approval for the excavation of ponds and or water connections. Predial larceny. This is a persistent, intractable problem that stands in the way of progress. Let us increase the fines for predial larceny. Legislation may be necessary for that, or maybe it can be done simply by an adjustment by the Minister of Finance, and build a patrol capability with emergency numbers. Then what we need to do is to link the predial larceny squad to the rotation of crops in the annual cycle to make them more targeted, efficient, and delivering more value. Because watermelons are stolen at a certain time when they are ready to be reaped. Pumpkins at another time. So if you look at the cycle of the products that we actually grow, and we know when is the time that they are susceptible to predial larceny, I think we can manage the system in a lot more realistic and targeted way. Knowledge of farmers and the spread of the production system will allow us to manage this effectively over the course of a year with relatively exacting geographical focus. There is a season for watermelon, pumpkin, and all other produce. Farmers need to be given opportunity to construct a livable concrete structure to facilitate storage of reproduce and small farm equipment. Currently, only a temporary farm shed is allowed on state lands and tyranny lands. This would also give farmers a framework and basis to higher security at times of need. I have at least one farmer in this audience whose place was burned down because it was wooden, and all his stuff stolen and reduced to ashes. What remained? 4, upgrading the record of farmers on state lands. The effective registration of farmers could be enhanced if the fear that farmers who occupy state land will be asked to relinquish it is relieved. Because some farmers will not go to approach any kind of officialdom because they are afraid that the lands that they're squatting on essentially is going to be taken away. Farmers can be enticed to register if temporary documentation will be provided on registration, which will then give access to recognition of the farmer with attendant opportunities and benefits already mentioned. But the value to the ministry and to the country is that all the farmers will come forward and register, because they know that if they register, they will have the benefits that all farmers are then able to get. The 4 or 5 agencies which now each has partial information on farmer registration can also be integrated and rationalized with a meaningful database and double-checked and updated with the information from the Agricultural Society of Trinidad and Tobago. This can be a collaboration, therefore, between state and the private sector. The private sector being farmers and the Agricultural Society, and the state, of course, being the state agencies. 5, funding. We need to know how the $100,000 incentive program for farmers is going, and we need to know where it is going. For instance, are farmers from Tyranny Central receiving any grants? Are all unregistered farmers deprived of this opportunity? What can be done to increase the pool of productive beneficiaries? And can we provide grants smaller than $100,000 to a farmer who may also need just $20,000 or $25,000, not $100,000? We also need to create the conditions for more farmers to get loans from the ADB. Giving more farmers access is the key to this. The Minister of Agriculture would be very familiar with something called My Pet. That is a program that is run by British Petroleum, in which they lend small amounts of money at 10% interest using an honor system, and it has a 3% default rate. That is to say 97% of the people who take the loans actually pay back the loans. And it supports business in the Mayaro region where BP has a foothold. Now that program was conceptualized many, many years ago when I was head of the IOB, and I worked with economist Roger Hussein to conceptualize the program. Then we sold it to BP, and they bought into it, and they let the program go. And that program is extremely successful, and it started with, I think, $10 million, and it now lends $100 million. And Atlantic LNG has copied the program and modified it in Point Fortin. And Roger Hussein, again, was the economist that helped them pioneer that particular project. So it's possible to have lending mechanisms that are much more creative, that are very, very successful, and that use an honor system that allow small people to grow small business into bigger businesses. So I think that's one of the things that we need to consider. Marketing. I want to ask a question on marketing. Is our marketing effort on track with NAMDEFCO, or should we be working backwards from external markets that we can identify, some of which we may have had in the past, with NAMDEFCO organizing the production process to meet export demand, and then allowing local marketing and distribution to fall in place? Wouldn't we then be in a stronger position in terms of the targets of production if we secure those outside markets and work backwards from that, and you had a marketing operation like NAFDEFCO actually making sure that we had the produce to send. Agriculture graduates is another issue I want to raise. I hope some of them, at least a few of them, are here today. What is happening to graduates in agriculture and related studies? Why can they not be absorbed in the production, marketing, and knowledge process in agriculture? Something is very wrong here, it seems. I am informed, I don't know if I'm correct, but if I'm wrong, the minister can correct me, that the Public Service Commission has not been asked since 2012 to address applicants for positions in the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, if there's a problem, we should say what it is and we should try to solve it. There is a high unemployment rate among agriculture graduates, as there is among graduates in other fields. Why can't arrangements be made, for instance, to set up a system for agricultural graduates to access lands with funding for a startup business? So you give them the land and you help them to start the business, and you then monitor them to see whether they should continue. Why can't graduates be used constructively in a meaningful extension services program which works and can show results? 8 is access roads. I had written the minister on a number of these some time ago, and we need to make some progress on that. We need a strategic access roads program for agriculture, and we need a flood management and irrigation program that actually works for agriculture and which can help us to manage effectively boosted production targets. And the final one here is flood compensation. We need a flood compensation system that works for farmers. If the current system works, it does not work well enough. Farmers will tell you that. It takes too long and seems arbitrary. We need a system that is really sensitive to farmers when they lose their crops and find themselves down and out. There are some issues I would like to raise with livestock, but I will leave those for later if they come up, because I think most of the farmers here are really farmers who are not involved in livestock. But if you have livestock issues, you are free to raise them as a farmer. And I do have them, and I will share them with the minister. But I would raise them here in order to conserve on the time and to give the minister a chance to speak, and also to give you more time to speak and to ask questions, okay? And to give you an opportunity to engage the technical people after you've asked your questions, so that they can remedy and help to remedy some of your problems. I want to thank you very much for listening to me, and Minister, once again, my sincere welcome to you. And I hope that you will find this an engaging and enjoyable opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Member of Parliament, Dr. Botawari, who has really, since 2016, he really hit the road running, on the ground running. We have been sending out dealing with agricultural issues. If you look at the table here, you would see that what we really tried to put together today is a very wide net from the agricultural sector. And speaking of that wide net, I think before I introduce the Honorable Minister, that it would, we should introduce members of this technical team that are present in no particular order in terms of seniority and so on. But those that I know from before, I might introduce first, because I'm just more familiar with them. So first of all, the person next to the Honorable Minister is Ms. Cheryl Rambharat. She is the AO1 County Officer in Caroni, which is located in Chase Village. So basically, most of our issues that arise in this Caroni Central area will be channeled through that office before it goes up to the various divisions. Next to Cheryl, we have Ms. Sharon Ochoa, right? AA3 State Lands, and I know a number of issues will be raised with state lands. Next to Sharon, we have Ms. Balmati Sicharan, Deputy Commissioner of State Lands. So I know that is an important designation for a number of persons as well. Dr. Tawari made 10 valuable points when he was speaking, And if you notice, he spent some time on the issue of the land tenureship issue in order to access the benefits through the farmers registration via the Ministry of Agriculture and so on. Next to Ms. Sicharan is Ms. Anne-Marie. Now I have to look for this name because I know her by another name, but she didn't want me to call her by that other name today. So I have to read this. It's Anne-Marie Dardin, right, who I worked with for quite a while in the South region. She's now the Director of Engineering, and she actually provided me with a form that we'll share with you all when that session arises, which speaks to many issues in which they have a formula for receiving complaints and addressing issues of drainage, issues of roads, access roads, issues of ponds, desilting and so on. But we'll get to that at the appropriate time. And finally, we have Ms. Jackie Gantum Farrell, Technical Coordinator of Agricultural Lands. Thank you very much for coming, and I know the staff at the front have various members in the audience as well designated that is providing some level of assistance and taking some notes and so on to make sure that your matters are properly addressed. Now, before bringing the Honorable Minister to speak, I'll just let you all know how the rest of the afternoon will be going. Once the Minister completes his speech, we really want to use that arise in this Caroni Central area will be channeled through that office before it goes up to the various divisions. Next to Cheryl, we have Ms. Sharon Ochoa, right? AA3 State Lands, and I know a number of issues will be raised with state lands. Next to Sharon, we have Ms. Balmati Sicharan.
Very much, ladies and gentlemen. I took some notes when Dr. Tiwari was speaking, so I'm going to follow his contribution. And in any event, it covers some of what I wanted to address with you in the opening. So let me say thanks first for coming out. I know farmers are busy and cool afternoons are very important, and we have a few of them now. But I know you've come here because you want to say something and you want to hear something, and I hope that you are successful in both of that. Dr. Tiwari and I have a very good relationship. Our constituency is as strong and as good as a member of parliament. And Dr. Tiwari, if I may say so myself, is somebody who is focused on the issue of the constituents. And that always helps me as a minister. In fact, on the issue of land tenure, which I have said consistently and publicly, is the #1 issue that I believe I must deal with as a minister. By August 2016, just before my first year in office, I had made more than 200 visits to farmers group site visits across the country. And the #1 issue that farmers spoke to me about was land tenure. And that is not surprising. It's been a long time and a lot of talk in terms of addressing the issue. And I'll tell you this, it was complicated in 2003, even before the Caroni visa, and it became more complicated after that, because the Caroni visa brought with it 20,000 new land files, something for which we really didn't plan going forward into the long term. So that even the ministry struggles with dealing with the Caroni visa workers, the 2-acre plots and the residential plots. And of course, the the closure of Caroni 1975 Limited also brought to the ministry responsibility for all former Caroni lands, which includes agricultural lands for which there were cane farmers' tenancies before, agricultural lands of Caroni which was squatted upon and for which people have no tenure. It brought with us residential tenancies for which there were tenancy agreements in place at the time of the closure. It brought with us squatters, residential squatters on Caroni's lands. Caroni had a program called the SSU, the Squatter Regular SSU Spontaneous Settlement Unit, and That dealt with specific sites, but there was other sites which were not covered by the SSU, and those residential squatters remained. Caroni also had commercial tenants, those who already had leases. We had people who were approved but did not have leases as yet, and we have commercial squatters on Caroni lands. And then there were institutions. For example, when I was in Caroni, I was approached by the Mahasabha to do a project relating to temples, and this is just one religious body and one is temples. And in 1998, there would have been more than 60 Mahasabha temples on former Caroni lands, which needed regularized. And that is just one religious institution and one issue. I'm not talking about the Mahasabha schools, I'm not talking about the Asha schools, I'm not talking about the Catholic Church, for example. Lands of Caroni that historically they've occupied, in some cases they leased, and the leases have long expired. So that even before Caroni's lands became part of state lands, there were challenges in areas like Wallafield, Calcifield, where those were 1960s projects established by the government to encourage the development of the livestock farming sector in particular. And those leases had long expired, and a lot of them, Calcifield, Wallafield, were not renewed. And as you go through the country, you would see a lot of farmers who are either on expired leaseholds or squatter lands. Now, I want to raise the question asked by Dr. Tiwari in terms of the status of productive farmers who are on state lands. And the government has made it clear, I in fact as minister have made it even clearer, that the government has no intention of removing productive farmers from state lands. There will be cases where productive farmers are on lands which are allocated for a different purpose. And in those cases, those farmers will have to be relocated. But by and large, in most of the instances, you have farmers who are productive and on state land for which there is no other allocation. And I'll give you an example. I've said it in relation to my community in Mayaro. Nariva Mayaro and County Caroni are two of the more important agricultural areas in the country. Historically, Nariva Mayaro has been one of the more productive areas. But I think, based on a percentage basis, there are more farmers in Nariva Mayaro without tenure on state lands than any other part of the country. A lot of the productive farmers in Mayaro are operating without tenure, and a lot of them are on state lands. And of course, County Caroni, I think, might be second in terms of productive farmers who are on lands for which they have no tenure. And it is for that reason, a lot of people don't understand, and every time I get the opportunity, I explain to them. Let me start at the end of it, or almost to the end of it. For anybody who is here on a parcel of land for which the lease has expired, that matter must go to the cabinet. And it gets to the cabinet from the county office, to the regional office, to the office in El Socorro, and ultimately the PS's office, the DPS's office, and then the minister's office. And my calculation is that could take 10 years, it could take 15 years, it could take a very long time. I, as minister, have tried to remove some of the steps, but have not been very successful in doing that. But everyone must go to the cabinet. And when you get to the cabinet and you get your approval, that is only half the journey. It must then, as you know, go to a place called the Chief State Solicitor for the lease to be prepared. And it takes a significant amount of time, and that is the renewal of the lease. For the regularization of farmers, it is a similar process. except that you have to meet a criteria for regularization. It is part of government policy. It's a cabinet decision that was made several years ago. And again, it involves a process that requires it to go to cabinet. Sometime over the last few decades, there have been times when cabinet has given the minister the authority to approve those transactions so that cabinet approval is not required, and the minister gives a report from time to time to the cabinet. I have not gone in that direction simply because as a minister, I would like my colleagues in the cabinet and I would like the cabinet to know what is happening with every parcel of land that comes to the minister for action. Now, on the issue of tenure too, so to answer Dr. Tiwari's first question, the government and particularly me as minister, I have no desire to interfere with productive farmers on agricultural land. I have a strong interest in dealing with people who are on agricultural land and are not productive. I have a strong interest in dealing with that in places like Orange Grove. I will tell you this also. We have here two of the most important people when it comes to land. Jackie Gantoon Farrell worked with the ministry. I think most of her career was in lands. She knows all the attempts. She knows all that has happened in the past. And I came in as minister not long after she returned to the ministry to work on agricultural lands. And we have also the Deputy Commissioner of State Lands, Bamati Sicharan, who came from Valuations Division, and she is now Deputy Commissioner of State Lands. And those two officers will tell you this. Very often, they get emails from me, from the PS, the Deputy PS, the Commissioner of State Lands, Deputy Commissioner of State Lands, Ms. Farrell. They get an email from me, which they will get sometime later today, complaining that I am not getting enough files, agricultural, residential, I'm not getting enough files. I feel as a minister that at this stage, I should be getting maybe 100 files a week to take to cabinet. And I've found that I am not getting that volume because I've set aside the time that it is required to go through those files so that I can take the note on to cabinet. And they will tell you it's an ongoing, it's a daily challenge to get sufficient production, to get enough files, because if we say we have a backlog, then I would like to clear the backlog, particularly as it relates to productive farmers. And because I generally have to wait for files to get to me, because I can't just go in the vault and pick up a bundle of files and carry it home, I've asked Dr. Tiwari and other members of Parliament to assist me by asking their constituents, because I know MPs get visits from constituents and the constituents have land issues, and I've said to him, if you can get the information, but not just to send me a letter, but to send me things that will lead me to the file, to send me the key information. The key information a minister needs to get to a file would be a file number, first and foremost. Every file in the ministry, it's not electronic. Work has been going on to make it electronic, but it is still manual. And each file has a number, and that gets me started in the right direction. Then you have other documents that will help, identification documents. Maybe the person has made an application, a copy of the application form, and everything that will help me, the expired lease, those documents, which I know farmers have available to them because they make the trek to the offices all the time with all the documents and so on. And I've asked that that be put together and sent to me so that when I send it on to the Lands Division, I'm able to request specifically that I would like these files so that we could give it the attention it requires. And as he reported to you, he's done that. I think it would make a lot of progress, and it will make a lot of progress faster in the interim, I do have a number with me today, but we have been making a lot of progress with Carlson Field, for example. A significant amount of those farmers have received their confirmation from Cabinet of their renewal. Farmers in Waterfield, Konopia, David Toby Road, farmers in my community, Rio Claro Food Crop Project, Kush, Pinda, farmers in Southwest Trinidad. In fact, I met a lady called Sheila Mohammed on the 1st of October, the morning of the budget. In fact, I met Sheila at my office to give her a letter which indicated to her that Cabinet had agreed to the grant of her lease. And she looked at me and she said, Minister, is 60 years awaiting, 60 years. And that is, on average, the files that come to me are no younger than 25 years, no younger. In fact, I get very suspicious. Like last week, I got a file with somebody who got a license in 2015, a license. And then the file had reached me already. When the license expired in 2018, the file reached to me already for a lease. I got very suspicious about that because I know that there are farmers who are waiting far longer than that. And that is the situation. Ms. Farrell will tell you, for example, that by the time those files come to us, people who have made the application have died. And again, the bureaucracy requires that they have letters of administration. You have somebody who is alive and healthy and everything, and they make an application for renewal or make an application for the inclusion of their children on the lease. And 30 years after, when the file reaches the minister, the person has died. And we are now saying to the families, go back to the starting point and bring letters of administration or grant of probate. And we've been trying to work out some of those things from a policy point of view to make it easier. I'll give you an example of one that really struck me as how really inefficient the system is. It deals with a family called the Biharilal family in Maraval. And in the 1960s, early 1960s, they were in occupation of a residential parcel of land, a parcel of land on which they had a house. And they made an application in the early 1960s for regularization. And that reached the Cabinet in about the year 2000. So 1960 something to the year 2000. When it got to Cabinet, it was approved, thankfully. By the time it got to Cabinet, of course, the original applicant had died and the son was dealing with the application. And from the 2000 approval, it went to the Chief State Solicitor for the preparation of the lease. That reached to me again in 2018, and you know what was the issue? In the year 2000, when the instructions went to the Chief State Solicitor to prepare the lease, the Chief State Solicitor recognized that there was an error in the acreage. Instead of the 10,000 square feet, it should have been a slightly smaller acreage based on the survey plan that the Chief State Solicitor was working with. And that simple error took 18 years to get back to the minister for the purpose of going to Cabinet to correct that small error. And I mean, I would like to meet the officers who are handling that file to find out, why something so simple could have taken so long. And all I've asked, when I speak publicly, I don't get support from the farmers. I don't hear farmers say, I had a situation that the minister talking about. The minister was talking about something I tell him about. All I ask the public officers in the ministry is to work the hours for which they've been paid and to work diligently in service of the farmer. Because I always say to them, and I've said to them in writing, put yourself in their position of waiting on some public officer, whether it is in the pensions division, whether it is at the registry for births and deaths, a birth certificate application, whether it's a passport application, Just put yourself in the position of somebody waiting on you to attend to your file. And I don't ask anybody to work overtime. I don't ask you to come out on weekends. That is my responsibility to do that. All I ask is that you dedicate yourself to moving people's files along so that we can clear the backlog and reduce the frustration. Let me get a little more. Take care. You know this. So on your land tenure issues, I want to ask you to talk to Mrs. Farrell and Ms. Sicharan. You could raise your issues, or you could talk to them specifically on a file. And if you have something to say on a land matter, I would suggest that you talk to them and give them the information, because you don't need to tell me you're frustrated. I am more frustrated than you are. You don't need to tell me how you've been struggling and suffering. I understand it fully. And if my officers are truthful, they will tell you what a bad attitude I have when I'm dealing with this matter of land tenure. I have a sense of urgency to get it done. I want to talk about, Dr. Tiwari mentioned about the form of documentation for farmers who are not regularized. There is a form of, there is an interim form, Dr. Tiwari, a card that leads to the final card. But again, we always working to try to improve what we could do. And I believe when I talk about the agri-incentive, I'll talk about the difference between the agri-incentive and the current incentive. I want to talk about the predial larceny. And when over the years, I'm not somebody who believes that we should be using fines to correct people's behavior. I mean, some of the things are so obvious, like killing the scarlet ibis, eating monkey. Those things to me are obvious. You shouldn't be doing that. Trinidad and Tobago remains one of the few countries in the world with a hunting season. It is a very generous hunting season from October 1st to the end of February. I think the most avid hunter and the most serious and diligent wild meat eater has enough time to consume. And I don't think that I should be trying to encourage people not to hunt in the closed season. But there are people who do it. And we had to increase the fines. And you know, when we were increasing the fines, I thought long and hard about putting the fines up to the 50,000 level. And I just thought to myself, it's a couple $100 now, and putting it to 10,000 is a big jump. And let me see how people behave. And if it is that does not discourage people, then we will make the further changes that is required. Likewise, predial larceny. Try to encourage people, try to discourage people from doing it. And Dr. Tiwari, if it is that we have to increase the fines, then we will do it by legislation. But I'll tell you something more important than that. Recently in the Senate, the House before that, where Dr. Tiwari sits, and the Senate where I sit, we passed some amendments to the trespass legislation. Trespass legislation is very old legislation, and we passed some amendments, and the bill has gone back to the House of Representatives for approval of some amendments we made in the Senate. Very important in that amendment is an amendment which says that if you are found on cultivated lands, if you are there without permission of the owner or lawful occupier, then you can face a fine of $50,000. Now, unlike predial larceny, where the offense is interfering with the crop and removing the crop, with this trespass legislation, you don't need to interfere with anything. You just need to be found on the land without permission. And I encourage farmers to use. I've already said to the Predial Larceny Squad that I expect that they will use this additional tool that they have in the law to protect farmers, because this one carries a fine of $50,000 or a term of imprisonment of up to 10 years. And that is serious. And if that doesn't stop people from coming on their land. There's another matter I'm addressing. I announced it publicly already. People in Port of Spain in particular were saying to me, they were seeing people in their yards hunting iguanas. And they were seeing people with air rifles, and you know the air rifles now look like the real thing. And the air rifles themselves now are powerful enough to kill somebody. And it is on that basis the Commissioner of Police made some adjustments to the law last year. But I announced that I was going to address that by banning iguana hunting in the city of Port of Spain, the municipal. That is only because I did not get a similar complaint from people around the country. But in the city, people were complaining about this. And that note is going to be considered by cabinet. But I'll tell you this, as a minister, I cannot ban activity on private lands. If you know hunting, for example, you don't need a permit to hunt on private lands during the open season. So that we cannot interfere with activity on private lands unless the law passed with a constitutional majority allows us to do that. But this same Trespass Act contains that provision where you cannot go into somebody's yard, you cannot go into an enclosed yard. So in addition to cultivated lands, you cannot go in somebody's yard without permission. And that gives an additional piece of law that persons who enforce the law can do, whether it is somebody coming into your yard to hunt, or coming in your yard to steal, or coming in your yard to interfere with you or your property. That is another thing that caused me as a senator to support the amendment to the bill. Predial larceny, I'll tell you this, one of the challenges with the Predial Larceny Squad, I don't have the officers here from the HR, is that we've not been able to deal with the tenure of those officers. Those officers are on short-term contract right now. They should be on 3-year contract, or a decision should be taken in terms of their long-term tenure with the ministry. And that is a matter that has been getting the attention of the HR division since I became minister. And because of that, we've not been able to do what Dr. Tiwari has suggested to us. Most importantly, we need to have a relationship between the Predial Larceny Squad and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, simply because the Predial Larceny Squad operates on its own, and there should be connectivity in all the police divisions with the Predial Larceny Squad. They've done some good work, but I will tell you that the number one issue with them is the issue of their own employment arrangement with the ministry. And I am going to be very happy to receive the recommendation from the HR division of the ministry and the permanent secretary to once and for all settle the terms and conditions of these officers. I want to talk about the issue Dr. Tiwari raised about storage on the farms. And I will talk about that in the context of the incentive. This new incentive, when I went around to all those visits I said I went on, a lot of times I came across good farmers, really good farmers, productive farmers. And there was something in what they were doing that I felt needed a boost or needed an improvement, or they needed some particular help in doing something. And I did not have the tool as a minister to do that. What we have a series of incentives that we offer, and we have ADB. And the most I can say to a farmer is, the farm will be improved if you did this or if you did something else. And If it's not covered by the current incentive, then you should look to get some financing from the ADB. And that led to a discussion with the Honorable Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, which led to what is now the agriculture incentive. And to answer Dr. Tiwari's question, your farmers have not been left out because not one incentive has been granted. We went through a process. The way it operates in phases so that you can apply for the incentive anytime. The form is on the ministry's website. I believe your MP has, do you still have forms? Right, the forms are available, printed forms, and the completed forms are lodged at the ADB. So just to manage the process, we do it, we put a deadline, and we evaluate the applications received on or before that deadline. So the evaluation committee, the first deadline was sometime in December. We received 336 envelopes. I said to the country we got 336 applications, but what the committee found thereafter was that some envelopes contained 3 and 4 applications, where you had different different members of the family, or different farmers coming together to submit it in one envelope. The committee had been working. I last spoke to them and they said they would be submitting the report to the Permanent Secretary by mid-February. They've not done that. And today, in fact, I asked them to indicate to me when they will be submitting the report. The report goes to the Permanent Secretary, who sends it to the Minister, and the Minister signs off to say whether I agree or disagree. When the report comes to me, I plan to go through every single application, those which are recommended and those which are rejected, and make my own assessment and provide guidance to the committee. The second phase was up to February 14th, and those are now going to be available for evaluation. And we've recently appointed a committee to deal with the Tobago applications separately. Now, it is not 100,000, it is up to 100,000, Dr. Tiwari. So this could be for 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, anything up to 100,000. But I'll tell you to answer the question of storage. Let me tell you, when you look at the guidelines, this is not for the purchase of seeds and seedlings and plants. This is not for what you routinely do as a farmer. This is not for vehicles. Those things are covered under the current incentive program. It's not for a tractor. It's not for a spray can. Those things are covered. This is for something that will increase your productivity, reduce your reliance on labor, improve your health and safety on your farm. It will allow you to prolong the shelf life of your product. It will improve your ability to do value added, those things. And I'll give you some examples. When I went to every farm I go to, I look around for washroom facilities. Well, we know we don't have that on farms in our country. When I spoke to farmers and spoke to other people, we believe that the 100,000 will cover the establishment of a washroom facility and a small facility that will allow you to do some on-farm storage and some on-farm sorting and grading, using a simple design and using the basic materials that are required for that. So that is one way in which you can improve your farm security, you can improve your own efficiency. You have farmers who supply to the supermarkets or mini-marts or so on, and they want to be able to grade and to sort the produce right there on the farm. It allows you to do that. Health and safety, livestock farmers in particular. One of the things this last bad weather in October 2018, one of the things I recognized was that was the first time I was seeing livestock farmers so hard hit, particularly in the St. Helena area. And what I realized with those farmers is that they really did not have a plan for dealing with that level of flooding on their farms. In fact, the ministry on paper have something, but for anything to make sense, it has to be doable, it has to be practical, we have to know about it. And I have asked some of the officers in the ministry to develop a plan to deal with risk management in terms of agriculture on the whole, but livestock farmers in particular. And the issue in St. Helena and those areas is simply there wasn't a space where farmers could safely put animals when they face rising waters. That was one. But more importantly, the drainage on the farms was not of a sufficient quality to allow for the quick runoff on the water. Of course, your drains could be perfect, your drains could be the best in the world, but if the water is running out into a filled watercourse, then you will still find an issue with backup. But a lot of the livestock farmers had earthen drains which were filled with vegetation, dashing, different things in the drain. The runoff from the farms had already clogged the drainage and created problems. In some cases, dead animals had been there from before and were creating problems, and they simply did not address it. So you have other issues like the dairy farmers, the ability to cool their milk very quickly and acquiring the equipment to do that. Acquiring equipment to move away from their hand milking and use not really highly sophisticated but good enough mechanical equipment to do that. You'll have farmers who, when I say reduce labor or improve productivity, there may be some specialized piece of equipment that you can use with your existing tractor equipment that is not covered under the incentive and existing incentives, and you have the opportunity to do that. And then you have the introduction of solar lighting on your farm, the improvement of security on your farm. You already have, in the incentive program, you already have support for you to improve farm security, but this goes beyond what we currently offer to help you make your farms safe. And I could go on and on and on, but I hope that this is an incentive which I hope would eventually replace the current set of incentives we have. My most important thing is with this incentive, and a lot of people may not even notice it on the form. Unlike the other incentives, this one does not require you to own land or have a farmer's badge, because that is the barrier, and it made no sense to me bringing on something to help productive farmers while keeping the same barriers that keep them out now. So the decision is not based on having a farmer's card or having lease of land. In fact, hydroponics, for example, people who are in hydroponics cannot acquire a farmer's card simply because they're not using that amount of acreage. So hydroponic farmers are complaining to me. But this incentive targets the people who use hydroponics and who use those farming systems which, going into the future, will protect us from this issue of the weather that we're having and what we expect to be an annual issue with heavy rainfall, particularly in the dry season and the wet season where you have extremely intense rainfall coming over short periods, which, our water courses and our engineering system can take care of some of it, but not necessarily all of it. I want to talk about the issue of Dr. Tiwari. Thanks for raising MyPed. I myself was very recently, when I worked with BP, MyPed was one of the things I was charged with working on. And I was at a function recently in Mayaro with MyPed where they celebrated the grant of the $100 million in loans. So MyPed over its existence has granted $100 million in financing. Now, every time I go to my community in Mayaro on matters relating to our Brighter Prospects program and MyPed, I always say to my community, could you imagine, like I had the MP for Muruga, and I will say to Dr. Tiwari too, could you imagine having a scholarship program in your community, not funded by the government, where you have to beg people to apply, Brighter Prospects is BP's program in our community, and it is for students right up to tertiary level who show potential and who need the financial assistance. And Brighter Prospects every year when I go to the program, I remind my community that out of the 41 constituencies in this country, only Mayaro through BP and only Point Fortin through Atlantic LNG has that type of program, and they should make use of it. Likewise, MyPed is restricted to the communities of Mayaro, around Mayaro. I've worked with BP to extend the reach within the constituency boundary of Mayaro, but we have other communities like my home community of Rio Claro. We have Bish, we have people who could benefit from it, and MyPed is really a good model. But I'll tell you this, about a month ago, I approved ADB launching a program similar to MyPed. Now I'll tell you this, we are our worst enemies, and you know that. For every good farmer, you have 10 fake farmers. For every farmer who makes good use of the farmer's card, you have 10 farmer's card holders who just in it for the vehicle. And when ADB had an unsecured loan recently, up to 100,000 I believe, the default rate was in excess of 85%. Could you imagine that? And I always say, if our good farmers have access to that kind of money, they will be exactly what I've asked them to be, which is better farmers. So, Dr. Tiwari, I said, a month ago, I approved the ADB launching a microfinance project, a new facility, and again, a lot of times, for example, bad weather, or even the smallest, the way many of our farmers, now we have good farmers who do well. Last time I spoke about the extent of how well they do, somebody told me I was encouraging people to come to the house and rub them. We have farmers who do well, but the bulk of our farmers is small setback in their whole arrangement. For example, locusts, bad weather, some pest or disease coming, something with the market, for example. I always ask the people who were complaining about the $25 a pound tomatoes in December, what are you doing on behalf of our farmers now that it's $1.50 a pound? Farmers have to deal with that. So when we had the bad weather, a lot of the farmers said to me, Minister, I'm not waiting for the ministry to come. I'll go in and plant right away. And a lot of them were saying to me, I'm going to plant tomato to catch the Christmas. Unfortunately, they didn't catch the Christmas. And a lot of that production is coming on now. And you know what? You are farmers and you know better than I do. The lovely rain could be good and it could be bad. And if the rain continues to fall periodically, now you know the production of tomato will continue to be bountiful because it would not be reduced by the effects of the dry weather. And the price will go down, and we have to deal with that. But a lot of times, farmers experience a little hiccup in their cash flow. And I think that ADB needs to be the place where they could go to get a short-term financing to help them through a particular issue. You know, when you know better than I do, and a lot of people don't take time to understand how much farmers rely on the proceeds of a single crop, because they have the agro shop to pay, they have other people to pay out of the crop, and then they have to finance the other crop. And I hope that ADB will launch that product shortly. I want to talk about the agriculture grants. Well, you know what? A lot of those positions are public service commission positions, and unfortunately, as minister, I have no way of compelling the Public Service Commission. We have, in terms of technical positions, we have more than 198 positions vacant. A lot of people approach me to be game wardens. Those are public service positions. In Forestry Division, we are 30% capacity. And you know, it really hurts me that in this country, we have ECIAF, which is a specialized forestry institution, and we cannot hire the graduates of ECIA because the Public Service Commission has to do that. We have in livestock, for example, we have a need not for more vets necessarily, but for more of the support, the technical support to the vets. And those people who can actually, and I don't want, as I say before, when I criticize the ministry, none of you support me. I'm on my own every time. Every time I talk, I'm left on my own. So when I spoke about the fake vets, nobody supported me. When I spoke about the people who sit in the office every day and you can't get them to come out on the field, nobody supports me and say, well, on a radio station, I listen to radio all the time. Never hear a call that say, listen, I'm calling from Pinal. And I had a situation and I was calling the vets and nobody come. I never hear that. I hear what the minister didn't do or not doing. But I say to you, the filling of those vacancies for game wardens, forest officers, the technical positions in the ministry is not something we have stopped. Actually, the permanent secretaries, whichever one was there, they all have a mandate from me to deal with the Public Service Commission and explain to them that a ministry of this nature cannot function without its technical officers, whatever position they hold. And I can't fill those positions, and we have a responsibility. I've gone to UE, I've gone to UTT, and I've spoken to them. I've said to them, the graduates, the UE students are being exposed to the ministry too late. We can't have people graduating and then trying to fit into a ministry. You have to design your curriculum where the students come into the ministry from day one. They have to do that because that is the only way we're going to prepare them for the real world of work. We're going to introduce some succession planning in the ministry, and we're going to really develop capacity, particularly in rural areas. In rural areas where we have the need, because when you have vets living in urban areas, in the ministry, and they clock out at 1 p.m. and they go their way, the farmer in Guayabayari, the one in Matlot and Toko and those areas are not going to benefit, and a lot of them will be on Facebook saying, Minister, calling the ministry, I'm trying to get a thing and I can't get it. Engineering is here. I was up in Brazo Seco on Saturday morning, and I said to them, I really can't deal with access roads in the way you would like me to. We have a certain level of funding, and when I came in as minister, I said, we'll use the funding on those areas where you can have the highest impact to farmers. So we have some projects going on, an ongoing project in Orange Grove. We have projects in Tableland and some other parts of the country. But the way in which we could really make an impact is if the Ministry of Works, Ministry of Local Government, municipal corporations, and our ministry work together to see how we could use the available resources to bring some relief. Sometimes it's just a crossing, and we have cylinders sitting in different parts of the ministry. We have pieces of equipment. If we plan, if we know what problems we want to deal with, if we really organize ourselves, we're going to be able to make a difference. But unfortunately, the minister barely has a driver's license. I can't operate a tractor or excavator or anything like that. I could go on the site. You have seen me around the country. I'm on the site, I'm on the scene of a lot of things that is happening, but I require the support of my officers. The head of engineering is here, should be able to take your questions. If you have, Dr. Tiwari has written to me on some specific roads, or everything I get related to engineering, access roads, irrigation ponds and so on, I send it to the head of engineering, who is the expert with that team to make decisions and make recommendations to the minister. I believe I've covered almost all of it. But I want to close by saying to you, at some stage, I will listen. On some stage, I will have to leave you because I have another commitment later. But I have the officers who are here. I want to thank you and thank the citizens of this country. I cannot complain about lack of support. I've had the love and support of this country. I don't agree with some of the things people say, and you don't agree with some of the things that I say, but my commitment has always been to improving things for farmers, but particularly on this issue of tenure. And in the time I have allotted to me as a senator, that is one day at a time, I will continue to try. I have two very senior people who will go back to their offices and say, the minister, talk about tenure and leases again, and I'm really committed on that single item to make a significant difference in your lives when it comes to your agriculture production. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for a very comprehensive response to, as you put it, almost all or many of them. Right, so we're making a little progress. While the issues are being raised, we have an officer. We'll raise the issues first. We'll give this session probably 30 minutes.
Mr. Minister.
Yeah, when you see me on the phone, forget to say that when you see me on the phone, there's no outside link on my phone. Not what's happening for friends.
I am Rambharat Basha, ex-Carani.
Right.
And I applied for a 2-acre block island.
Right.
And I have no reply, no response back from nobody. So I don't know what happened with that.
Well, I wouldn't be able to tell you now.
Uh,
But I'll ask you to leave your information with somebody who's taking the information. Now I'll tell you this. There were, when the applications were invited for the 2-acre parcels, there were about 7,200, I believe, applications. All of that has been processed. And in fact, at the end of 2017, we could not find about 1,100 persons who should have received their leases. We placed an ad in 2018 in the newspaper, and calls were made, and we've been trying to find those persons. As far as I know, they've found about 600. There's still some people they can't find. So the first thing you have to do is to find out from Carani if they are looking for you. However, there's a second category of persons who applied after the deadline. After the deadline, there are 1,198 persons who applied after the program closed, and no decision has been taken on how or what to do with those, because we're trying to deal with those who applied during the period and to give out those leases. I'll tell you this, every person who got a letter indicating that their application for a 2-acre parcel was received and approved has a lease waiting for them. Everybody who has gotten a letter. And if you have no correspondence, then you need to talk to Carani to find out what happened, what your situation is.
well, I talked to them a few weeks ago, and they tell me that they have no land new development for me. I can draw.
Right.
So that's what you're saying there?
Exactly.
They make no decision on that, so what am I doing?
No decision has been made. Because these are people who showed an interest after the deadline.
I'm going to try.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Minister, I just want to tell you, Mr. Balchan here came to me, I think, since 2016, might have been early 2016. And there would be, I have reviewed about 3 times on this particular issue. So it is something that would be live in your ministry. You probably passed it on to somebody.
No, this matter.
Yes, on this particular matter. So you will find his name and whatever related to him, like his file numbers or whatever. So if you can have someone follow up and just let us know what the situation is, we'll be grateful.
Thank you.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Rambharat. I upside papaya, pumpkin, and also Canadian sweet corn. I have to read Canadian sweet corn, the invitation and sweet corn outside. I actually introduced the Canadian corn this evening. Minister, I told you that they were
You're the guy selling in Freeport.
in highway. Not longer in highway anymore. Police coming after me.
Right. IT and tech, right?
Used to be there. I said that guy building before the end of the yard. Only I told you this year when you were the first time. And the other problems I have right now is the water is a main issue. The land I'm planting on is Carolina. I've been there part of the land since 1985 and the other part occupied in Carolina. Now I'm wondering if I could dig a pond in the land, would I be allowed to do that? Because the water is a serious issue. But sweet corn, you can't water that.
You see, that is why I raised the issue of land tenure, because your starting point, before you could dig anything, is tenure. Now, have you made an application for regularization?
Oh yes, I did that for application. The first 3 went missing. It sounds strange reason.
Right.
The first 3 went missing. The other one I did it. Last I was told about it when Sarah Chan was here at Mr. Mungal office.
Right.
She said for regularization. I went by and checked.
Could you make a copy available to the MP's office?
I have no documents. They took everything. Because like I said, the first 3 applications I made through GPS, showrunners in our office, they had a meeting there. Then I made another one in Carolina in BC.
Right.
Those 3 went missing. But I made it, Sarah should meet with me again. I made another one to get to Trisha. And that one was the one that went up to, they said it's on the computer for regularization, but I know what's going on with that.
Right. So, could you leave your information with one of the officers from that?
I will.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, Mr. Minister,
Good afternoon.
Dr. Tiwari, members of the table, my colleagues in farming here. My name is Ramdev Bundu.
Bundu.
Yes,
World famous Bundu.
I am fortunate to be in 2 constituencies, Kalani East, Kalani Central. I'm only boundary.
Right.
But I farm in Kalani Central, I farm in Kumano. Now, I want to publicly commend you, Mr. Minister. A lot of people know how you got to do that. For the role you played in this tenancy issue. And you are working, sir. Right? Very soon I'll be 70 years old. And I have tenancy pending on way back to regularization and whatnot.
Now tell us about this land, the state land, right?
State land, yes.
And you ever had a lease for it?
No.
Right. So you just went on state land and started the farm.
Yeah, but that was passed on from my parents.
Don't worry, I didn't call it Gary Griffith's here.
Yeah.
So your family been farming.
Yeah.
And you've been there how many years?
Since 75, 77, all around.
Right. And you are one of the most successful farmers in this country.
Yes, sir.
When we had the National Cocoa Awards on Sunday, 9th March, and we recognized the 20 top cocoa farmers based on the quality of their beans judged by a local and international panel. The only person I didn't know on the list was a fellow called Leroy Peters from Grand Riviere. I wanted to know how I missed him in my trips up there. And it turned out that Leroy won the award for the top cocoa farmer in the country. And just as I was leaving the function, having spent about 3 hours there, Leroy and his wife Gita, who is from Mamural, stopped me. And in the way most people do, they say, very shy women, sir, we could ask you something, and I said, sure. And Leroy Peters told me, and I posted it on Facebook, he told me 18 years ago, he paid the fees to have his lease prepared. And he's made it to become the top cocoa farmer without water and electricity on his farm. Only because somebody who took his fee to prepare his lease, I'm not saying they're corrupt enough, didn't do anything. And it doesn't surprise me that some of the top farmers in this country, on the East-West Corridor and wherever, don't have tenure for the land. So continue.
Yeah. Right. For those who don't know me, I am the president of the Edinburgh Agricultural Association. I'm a practicing farmer, trained in several fields. I specialize in the root crops, sweet potato, cassava, yams. Developed several new varieties of sweet potato, inclusive of the cocoa flesh potato. About 7 new varieties of cassava that is on the market right now. Right? As I told you, one of the biggest problems is the security of tenure.
Could you give the representative from Lands your information?
Yeah, I will.
Tonight?
Yeah. All right. I know that these are all the problems and whatnot. I just want to go briefly on it. One of the critical things is market. And I believe if you farm, it must be market driven. Right? Otherwise you end up with like the tomato problem we have right now. Right? You have to do, and the problem I have is that you know that we have been successful in getting you with the sweet potato people and whatnot to come to the office. And we had a list where the office invited over 70 people and you had 10 people turn up, 10 farmers. So I think the problem we have is that you want to help people, but they don't find time to come out and get it. And we have workshops that where you teach people on doing market surveys. You look at what happened last year, what happened this year, and you plan your crop based on that crop planning, right? Why I believe we should go, and you know I did a presentation for you all a few years ago concerning the value addition with the cassava flour, the sweet potato flour, and the sweet potato price and all this other thing, right? I still believe that it is the way we should try, and I see the future in it. Water and irrigation, you know it is rare because since mid-November we hadn't had rain. We get in 1 or 2 showers of blessing right now. Right? The access road, I don't hope that the little water that we are extracting from the river that water come down on us, and I trust that you will deal with that.
We made it so easy. So between 2015 and now, it is so much easier to get a water abstraction permit. Have you applied for one?
No.
Don't rely on the poor minister because police not biting easy enough.
Right.
You should apply for it.
I will.
And Ms. Dardine is heavily involved in the water issues and should be able to assist you.
Yes, and Ms. Dardine, thankful that they assisted us with the funds and whatnot in the area. I want to thank you all.
Okay.
And you did a good job. But the thing I wanted to say that you have to approach these people in the right way and you get to use them.
Can I just mention water resources? Let me just mention water resources. They have given us that necessary. Once you apply,
Yeah, once you apply, you will get your obstruction.
If you want help from us, you talk to my officer and we will liaise with you. So water resources has given us the space. But if you do not apply and you have no record of applying,
that's the issue. The issue is that,
right.
you see, prior to, like in 2014, when you applied for the water abstraction permit, there were 2 field officers. And the field officers took about 6 months. So the dry season gone. So now it is easier to get it and to get the support of the ministry to get their permit because I want all farmers who are abstracting water to get their permit.
Okay, Mr. Right, the other thing is the timely payment of the subsidy and the incentive.
Right, let me just talk about the flood compensation now. When Dr. Tiwari was speaking about the flood compensation, Ms. Rambharat, who is on the front line. You know, our county officers are really on the front line. I don't interact with people as much as our county officers do. And I direct everybody, I direct them to the county office. There's a reason why we have a county office. They have all the different skills there, and they're the ones who really do the initial work that ends up on a minister's desk, on a PS's desk. And when Dr. Tiwari mentioned the flood compensation, I tell you, we are our own enemies. She whispered to me that fraudulent claims are the reason why it takes so long. Now, when we made some payments last year, I believe it was June or July, I announced that I was asking the Ministry of Finance to do an audit of the payments to help me understand why some people get paid and some people don't, and why some people get paid a very high amount. And I quoted a figure of $250,000 that was approved for one farmer. It may be legitimate, it may not be, but I saw a lot that were $200, $300. I saw a payment of $6,548 for a farmer in Moruga whose farm I visited at the height of the flood. And the water covered the pawpaw and everything. He's one of the most successful farmers selling in the Makoya market. He's a specialist in pawpaw. And I saw his entire acreage, and he happens to be operating without a lease in Moruga food crop. I saw his entire acreage, and I have videos of it. And I cannot understand how something like that will get $6,548. And then you have, and that is why I asked for the audit now. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got the draft report of the audit, and I immediately said to the permanent secretary, because I read it right away, I immediately said to the permanent secretary, indicate to them that I have approved the draft, we could finalize it, and when it's finalized, I will take it to cabinet to introduce all the measures which I recommended. I'll tell you this, those flood claims have not been audited for years. You have in each county office a different way of doing things. When you are supposed to have a site visit with 2 officers, you have site visits with 1. You have certain officers recommending high payments, and you have other officers for the same damage and the same crop offering or recommending lower payments. So the flood compensation or assistance is really the word. It's something that is really problematic, and that is one. And the issue with the subsidies and incentives has to do with poor management by the ministry. When I came in as minister, there was about $15 million in claims sitting in the ministry. And what I found, and you know, people mustn't feel upset. You know, you don't take things personally. People mustn't feel upset when I speak the truth. The truth was that it was only when we come to the close of the financial year, like in September, you would find that claims coming from all the outside offices, particularly the 2 regional offices, you would find thousands and thousands of claims suddenly reaching the head office for payment. What happens with that is that they're going to be processed, but by and large, they're not going to be paid in that financial year. So you have lost the opportunity to pay it in that financial year. You know what happens next? The next year, the same amount is allocated, maybe 2 million or 4 million, but you already start the year with unpaid claims from the previous year. And then suddenly you find yourself in 2016 paying 2012, 2013, and so on. And the poor farmer is sitting there waiting, nobody telling you, because his manual is paper, and nobody telling you where you stand in the queue. You know, I always say, if the people I work for get a response from you, and you say, we wouldn't be able to deal with it until 2020, they will arrange their affairs to deal with that. But whether it is land tenure, or subsidies, or flood assistance, the ministry tends to be very unresponsive. And with the subsidies, We clearly went back to Parliament. Dr. Tiwari will remember last year in the Lydia review, the Parliament approved an additional allocation for us to clear the backlog. And at the end of last financial year, 2020, September last year, as the financial year was closing, I made sure that I was personally there, making sure that as many subsidy claims as we had were paid out. And in fact, I gave the figure, I can't remember it now, but I know in that last month of September, maybe about 5 or 6 million was approved in subsidies. We came into this financial year with very few claims from previous financial years. And again, I'm hoping that the ministry, we actually got a higher allocation this year for both flood assistance and for subsidies. And I hope that they keep it on stream so that in this fiscal year, we pay claims that are received in this fiscal year. The other thing, Mr. Bundu, I will say, a lot of people, I have said it a few times, they talk in the wind. You heard what I said to you? Before you leave here, give them your information, because a lot of people stand in public forum or they're on Facebook and they're talking in parables. You know, Sunday morning in church, I get all my parables. I can only work with information. And if a farmer's group or a farmer or anybody ever write to me, they will tell you, all of you know, you ever write to me, send me an email, send me a Facebook message, you get a response from me. And information, I always tell people, if you have a problem in receiving the services that you pay for, because you pay me, I work for you, then let me know and I will fix it. But you can't come to me and ask me, Minister, what going on with my subsidy claim? Because I'm your private business. But if you have a problem, my job is to ensure that the ministry deals with your problem.
Right, and finally the security, the federal arsenal. I have been successful in getting 2 guys in prison for informal publication. Right, a lot of the farmers don't know that rule, but I know it, and I took, I went to my report and I was sentenced.
Yeah, it's a law that existed since 1852.
And the farmers have to stamp their protocol. You must take the step to protect what you have. The other thing is the federal arsenal squad. And I'm glad you touched on some of the problems and the difficulties that the people operate with. I live very closely with the squad. Right? Unfortunately, sometimes they don't have the amenities to do the job properly. Number one, people not we are booking people sometimes when you go to the office there, you have 3 people come out of the room. Protocol dictate that no one person to remain in the station and no one person is to go on patrol. So Mr. Minister, I touch on that and I believe that you will make some inroad into correcting that and let the federal arsenal move on behalf of the family.
Well, in relation to the federal arsenal, long before I became minister, I felt that operating out of Beetham as an office and operating out of Farm Road, we needed to be in a location where we could be more responsive. They had offices, a building refurbished for them in El Carmen. They had other offices upgraded for them. I would tell you this, the last 3 vehicles, radial arsenal vehicles, which were damaged, I've asked for reports on it because I can tell you, those 3 vehicles were not damaged in pursuit of criminals in support of farmers' business. I've not gotten the reports as yet, but I've asked for it because I'm aware of the circumstances in which they were damaged. When I came in as minister, I asked OLAF, the Office of Law Enforcement Policy, to do a review for me of the radial arsenal squad. And the report I got told me the number 1 issue in the radial arsenal squad, they get very upset when I say this, is absenteeism. You identified that as an issue. If you look at the work of the radial arsenal squad, a lot of times they like to go and support police as they can as supplemental police officers. They support the police in traffic, in doing roadblocks and so on, and they're not necessarily available for duty. When this is reported that I say that, they will get angry again. But I didn't make that up. The Office of Law Enforcement Policy prepared a report for me which says that. And I've said it over and over. If you are in command of an 84-man unit, as a leader, your job is to ensure that people are at work when they're supposed to be or they're not paid, that the vehicles, the resources, the offices that are made available are taken care of, where there are routine repairs and so on to be done, that you ensure that they're done. And that is how a leader operates. And part of the issue with Radio Larceny and other parts of the ministry is a lack of leadership. And a lot of it starts with the inability to get people to come to work.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
I want to thank Dr. Tiwari from the County Central for creating this opportunity, and I hope that my colleagues make good use of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Richard Jackson, Senior Law. I'm not a farmer, however, I am a member of the Committee of Management on board of the Agricultural Society of Trinidad and Tobago, and as part of my maternal law chambers, I do represent a handful of farmers, and I reside in the central area. Before I begin, let me just thank the Honorable MP of Clarence Central, Dr. Tiwari, for organizing such an event, and of course, the Honorable Minister himself for attending an event, and all of the technocrats and important persons from the various arms of the ministry. So thank you all for attending. My questions tonight will be in relation to the opening or lack thereof of the Shoguana's Central Farmers Wholesale Market located off Woodford Lodge, just on the boundary of Shoguana's West, Hoover North, Clarence Central. The first two questions I have is directed to you, Mr. Minister. First question is, are you aware that every month the Ministry of Agriculture, through NAMDEFCO, spends $25,000 from the public purse to run, that is the operational cost, that is to run the temporary farmers market out of your head office of the highway? That's the first question. The second question is again directed to you, the Minister. Why is that money, or less, if at all, not spent on running the operational cost of the Shoguana Central Farmers Market at Woodford Lodge? And I'm not sure if there's anybody from NAMDEFCO here, but if there is, then this question is posted to you. What was the thinking, what was the decision-making process thinking behind opening the temporary farmers market at the head office location as opposed to or versus opening the central farmers market? And I want to follow up that question by, why is the farmers market at Woodford Lodge not open today? To this date, why is it not open? And the final question, again to the representative from NAMDEFCO, is this, and of course, Mr. Minister, I think this can also be answered by yourself. If today, or tomorrow morning actually, if tomorrow morning that venue is open, because by no means am I asking for the current or temporary market to be closed and this be open in its place. I'm saying if tomorrow morning that Woodford Lodge location is open, is there any reason, is there any cause why central farmers, being Felicity Farmers Association, Caroni Central Farmers, Cooper North Farmers, Cooper South Farmers, as you know, the ward of Caroni is quite large and encompasses maybe the sugar mill. Is there any reason why those farmers cannot be given first preference to vend at the Woodford Lodge location?
Thank you very much, Richard. And I was once a young lawyer just like you. And I always made sure that I did my research and I understood what was happening, and I'll help you understand. The first thing is that a decision was taken to construct what are called packing houses, one in Brecon Castle and one in Brickfield. The one in Brecon Castle cost more than $50 million so far, and that is without the equipment to operate it. You can't have a packing house if you don't have the equipment. The one in Brickfield, similarly, built, it's cost $27 million so far, without the equipment. I've said on many occasions that there are legal issues on both those packing houses, unpaid contractors, there are disputes between what the contractors claim and what we believe is the value of the work done. And I said, when that is settled, those two facilities will be put out for private-public partnership, simply because in the hands of a government entity, those things will not be able to service the farmers. It does not mean that farmers will have to pay an exorbitant fee to use the service, because the government may be committed to make a contribution that keeps the fees at a level where the farmers can afford. And if you want to know why government should not be in a packing house, talk to the farmers who have tried to use the Piaco packing house. That's been operated for a long time at maybe 20-30% capacity. I, as a minister, went on that compound. Nawaz Karim was with me that day. Went on that compound, I toured the entire facility. And there was not one worker to ask me what I was doing there. So that is about the two packing houses. In Woodford Lodge, similarly, a decision was taken to have a wholesale market. I don't know if the farmers were consulted. Similarly, there was an unpaid contractor, a dispute over the costs and what should be paid. Lawyers got involved, quantity surveyors. I believe that Namdefco, just as the other two, is close to settling the legal and the payment matters. I've also said that that facility will be put out for private-public partnership. Now, even before that, I've publicly said to the Chabonas Borough Corporation, if you want that, then you have first preference over that. If you believe that a wholesale market should operate out of that location, you have the first preference. You go to your line minister and you put in a line item in your budget for the operation of that. But when I've spoken to my farmers across the country, they've said to me, this is what we want, Minister. We want to be able to come to Makoya Market and be given a space without having to come at 1 a.m. or midnight to enter the market at 7. Because the way it operates, whoever is in the gate first gets a spot. They want me to resolve the parking issues. That matter went to court. The residents along the road that runs from the traffic light south took the matter to court and got an injunction against Namdefco because there was parking outside their homes. And they said to me, the third thing is that they want to improve the security of the market. We committed and we undertook an upgrade of the Norris Dave Narayan wholesale market in Makoya, expanded the car parking facility, improved the flow of the farmers. We stopped, and it's very controversial. Something as simple as retail persons coming into the market to buy a palm at this. Makoya is by law a wholesale market. And the presence of retail customer, the wholesale farmers have said to me, interferes with their operation. One, somebody coming for a pound or something takes up a car park spot. Two, the place becomes congested. And what we've done, there are certain days when you can come to retail in Macoya for free. And if you choose to come on a wholesale day, there's a $20 fee involved. And somebody wanted to buy something on a Monday or Wednesday is not put off. There is a municipal market in Tunapuna that you could get your produce. So that is the wholesale, and the farmers from across the country, my community in particular, love going to Macoya. That is where they want to be. You have a wholesale market in Davie that had not been improved. I said when I went to Davie wholesale market, I was shocked at the conditions. People were driving through the stalls. The chicken, one of the main things in Davie wholesale market is the sale of fresh poultry and fish. The mold in that facility, I am surprised that anybody with a concern about health would allow food to be sold down in Davie. And you had congestion, it was congested because you had parking and market and selling all in the same place. And I said publicly, and not one of you in this room have ever heard support me. I said there's a cartel operating in Davie, and I intend to break the cartel by improving. So what we've done, we commissioned a project to create an 8,000 square foot parking area in Davie, a project to improve traffic flow, the security, and that area where poultry and fish is sold. I'm about to commission the first phase of that project. In other words, it's completed. We're going through the final sign-off with the contractors. And even before we started the first phase, I said the next phase will be the poultry and the fish. Even on the day I turned the sod for the expansion of Macoya, Norris Deonarine Wholesale Market, I announced that there is going to be a further expansion on the eastern side of Norris Deonarine, on the southern side of Norris Deonarine, where you have some residential people who have been there occupying space that belongs to the state. The fact is that that facility in Woodford Lodge may be used as a wholesale market, or additional work could be done on it so that it can be used as an agro-processing facility, because there's a gentleman from Avrils met me. I meet a lot of farmers who don't need a Breckencastle $50 million facility. They need a smaller area where they could use. Now, let me tell you about the farmers market. A lot of people come to me and say, Minister, why are you renting all them tents? Why are you renting all them tents? And let me tell you what caused me to expand farmers market. And I've told this story many times. It was just a week before Easter of 2016, when I got home, I opened the refrigerator and I saw a lovely piece of watermelon with a nice plastic wrap over it. The slice was about 4 inches wide. And I saw a nice price sticker on it, $31.69. And my marriage could have ended right there. I always tell my wife, do not buy agricultural produce. Let me buy that. I had just come from home in Mayaro, where I had bought 2 watermelons from Canaham, big like this, about $23 each. And I said to Namdevco, why on the Thursday before the Easter weekend, we don't get a truckload of watermelon and sell it in the savannah? Because I said a lot of children in Trinidad will grow up thinking that watermelon is a slice like this. It grows like that. They wouldn't see what a watermelon is because it might be about $200 in the city. And that first Thursday before Easter in 2016, we got farmers to come out with sweet potato, pimento. We had everything except watermelon. And that led to the opening of the farmers market in the savannah, which led to the opening of the farmers market in Santa Cruz, because the farmers up there told me they wanted their own thing. It led to the expansion of the farmers market in Point Fortin, in Diego Martin. It led to the opening of one on Harris Promenade, the only one we have on the street. It led to the farmers market. And people say, why do you rent the tents? Well, you know what? That is the concept of a farmer's market. You don't need staff, You don't need to maintain anything, to maintain infrastructure, and you could change location as it becomes necessary. For example, in Carnival weekend, we lose 3 Saturdays because of Carnival. But because we don't have a permanent structure in the Savannah, you'd see I've shifted the farmers market to Mandela Park for those 3 days. There are times when I've shifted the Savannah market to other places. You know what is happening right now in the ministry's compound in Chabonas? That farmers market could grow tenfold, but we simply do not have the space. So we are about to develop a 1-acre site close to that building for a farmers market. When you look at the rental, and people say to me, Minister, but why you don't buy your tents? And I say this to them. I know by using the rental people and guaranteeing them the work, and I don't know who's renting the thing. I know that the cost is among the lowest in the country. They set up the tents, they put in everything, and you could pass there Thursday and see the farmers market for Saturday set up already. You could pass in the Savannah Thursday and see the Saturday. And you're not waiting on a public servant to come and put in the tent and pay the tent. You're not doing that. And 12 o'clock, it comes down and it's gone. One evening, I saw on Facebook the farmers market tents in the Savannah blowing over the grandstand. And all I did was to call Nambevco to make sure that if the supplier will put those tents back in place. A lot of people get caught up with the cost. The 25,000 sounds as a lot, but I can tell you more than $500,000 in value passes through that farmers market in Chabonas. And I will tell you, between Davie and Macoya, $250 million in produce pass through there on an annual basis. It is not a simple matter. A lot of money and a lot of value is coming through the farmers market, and as taxpayers, the contribution we make is to keep it going. To put in permanent structure, maybe another minister will make that decision. Now let me answer you this way. We opened one in Vancouver, and if it is that the farmers in Central, your farmers you're speaking for, Felicity farmers and the other farmers want to have a farmers market of that same type set up in an area for them, there's no problem. I am open to that. I'm open to doing that if it will generate the activity, if we have enough farmers coming to sell, and if it would be beneficial to the farmers. But we do not have to stop one to have the other. And we do not have to, I am just saying that I am not convinced as a minister that wood for lunch should be a wholesale, because I know the farmers prefer. And if the farmers say to me that we believe it should be there, when it is advertised, the farmers could put in a bid, and the government will take a decision. There are enough farmers here, and let us make it available and offer it to them at a nominal fee. That is what government does, but we have to do it on the basis of exploring all the options, because my starting point is always anything in the hands of the state over a period of time degenerates into something that is of no value.
Good evening. Honorable Minister, Table. I'm Miranda Ruchan, and a lot of people know me here, so I'm not a stranger to many. And some of these are just my opinions. Way before you started the farmers market, Dr. Stewart did it in Central. We had the current Central Farmers Market. And personally, I think that was an excellent initiative in promoting the farmers in Central, where we try to promote innovation. And on the level that you've been doing it, in terms from the Savannah to South to Central, it's excellent, it's doing great. There are farmers who are here who have been doing unusual things. What I want to say today is that it's been an excellent initiative for young farmers especially. because now we see a demographic of people from as early as 16 years old in these markets selling things from kale, lettuce, peppers. Apart from the older heads, you know, it's coming down the generation in the land. The farmers market has been good in encouraging them and in stimulating farming in this section of the country. There are areas for innovation in terms of things that we haven't seen locally. I personally, for one, every time I travel, I look at things like goat cheese, yogurt, pesto, sausage, jams, jellies, and all of these things you can now find in the farmers market, which our farmers are getting into. And I think in moving forward as a nation, as a sustainable nation, a word that Dr. Tiwari taught me to run with, you know, we need to consider the needs of the farmers. We need to be proactive in all of the things that they are asking for, because in truth and in fact, it's unfair that at this time in society and in the world that we can't feed ourselves. That the economists are saying that we can't even produce enough for one family for a month, but yet we're still trying. And then we have all these issues of them struggling for land tenure, credit last need, everything that you have addressed today. So I think in moving forward, my contribution here today, and I am a farmer, I'm just not hands-on in it, and I promote local farming in any way that I can. I think we really need to take the initiative and step forward to push in these guys to do what they have to do for the farmers here today. And thank you, and we support you and continue to support the initiatives of Dr. Tiwari and the MP in Caroni Central.
Thank you very much for recognizing, because you know, actually I thought you were saying, you're about to say goat cheese, all those things, we don't have it. But one of the things that struck me, particularly the first time I went to Upmarket, which would have been Christmas 2015, a few months after my appointment, Dr. Tiwari, I was taken aback because I taught in Whitehall. And I remember when we were trying to get the students to do value added, it would be a pepper bottle that they wash or a coffee bottle that they wash, and they put pepper sauce and they put a piece of masking tape, and it was that way at home. But we've really evolved. I mean, this country has produced Berties, and when you think about Berties, for example, and what it does for Ricky Ramcharan, one of the farmers who is in Monjalu, and we recently approved. Ricky was in fact occupying a parcel of land on David Toby Road for about 17 years. Ricky's a very successful farmer. I even had to respond in Parliament about Ricky. When you think about Nawaz, who is supplying Bertie, and the fact that we have a high quality product. I'm not saying the other pepper sauce is not good. I'm using Bertie's. Excellent packaging, excellent marketing, pepper of choice in Price Mart. When you go to TGI, which in the early days at TGI, you go and you get an imported Tabasco bottle. You have Bertie's there, you have Bertie's in Trotters. It says a lot about what we could do, but not just with primary production. Trinidad is excellent with peppers, but also in terms of the value added, the quality of the packaging, the quality of the presentation, and of course, the quality of the taste. And when you go to Upmarket and you see perfect peppers, for example, excellent packaging, habanero. You can get habanero pepper online. That packaging is excellent. They've been able to do the small gift bottles, the variety pack, and produced by the way the habanero scorpion pepper sauce is a deadly pepper sauce that people who like hot pepper around the world, it's a favorite of theirs. So the farmers market has given us an opportunity to showcase small producers, people with a bucket of egg, with a bucket of lime, and give opportunities to a lot of people. And I hope that the concept continues to expand throughout the country. I'm going to take two more. We have these three questions or contributions.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Harita Saragu. I am a farmer, a vegetable farmer in Arena and in Rambharat.
Right.
One of the problems that
What acreage do you have?
in Arena I farm 2 acres and in Grand Coulee 10.
Do you have leases for those lands?
No,
The state lands?
here.
Right.
One of the problems that I face is that land tenure, you spoke about that at length.
Yeah.
So,
And I wanted to give you information to Ms. Cantu Farrell, who's at the end of the table.
and for a farmer who doesn't have tenure and losses in this year is in 2 acres. Help maybe in 2 acres. But my problem is that whenever you as a minister, I think we should look for, we could only look at a handful of people who say they are successful in agriculture. They would like this, farmer would like to send their families to college or uni or as the case may be, and high levels of education, but we don't have a strong financial finance coming up towards it. We don't have a sure, like, let's say take for instance the rice farmers of Trinidad and Tobago. They have they have an exact price as per cane long time, where we have an exact price per ton.
A guaranteed price.
Guaranteed price. And why can't we have a guaranteed price for tomatoes?
It not happen. It wouldn't happen.
Because it costs almost $3 to produce 1 pound of tomato. I don't know if tomato farmers as myself as well. Just really check that. But it costs $3 to produce 1 pound of tomato. And if we have, let's say, we have a maximum of 10, minimum of 5, and the government could help absorb, let's say, a big factory or something that help absorb the produce from the farmers.
You know, the state has been in that before, and it didn't work well for the taxpayers.
Because a gas tank could only, if a gas tank take $100 gas, it can put 150. Hence the reason why we have this dollar and 150. I abandoned almost 2 acres of cabbage right now. Plague, honestly, I had to leave it. Another thing is that you spoke about Namdefco. Now, Namdefco and Wallace I read both markets. The people who we call the middlemen, they occupy 2 and 3 sales spots. So when you get there, they tell you, you out of the lines. And the police and security on site will come and assist them to get you out of there. And that is a serious problem in the market because we just have to give it away first, and leave the market. In Makoya, I heard you mention, but Makoya does the same thing. I heard you say that first come, first served basis is to go kind of way. When you go, they will run you out from their nice minds. I have been parking here for the longest while, and that's not right. Another thing is that people passing through the market with a pocket fat. Why do they get banks to set up a small, just a place within the market to have somebody deposit their money so they can reduce this crime and people following them home and you know, to help eliminate that problem where you have family trauma. That is a serious thing. I don't know how many people went through a family trauma with that kind of thing, but I tell you, it's not nice. As pertaining to peppers, if they could standardize the peppers as well, so people could actually produce to get something of the nature to get an exact price. Because at the end of the day, you don't have a salary. A farmer don't have a salary. Where 10 men, 20 bucks. And everybody feels, yeah, you make money, but they make nothing. They make money, but at the end of the month, they don't have nothing to show. So that's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, there are two commodities that are still enjoy a guaranteed price: cocoa and local rice. And if you followed the discussions we've been having in the public recently about rice, rice is heavily supported, but it's always a battle to sustain the rice, because the reality is that the local market is, not interested in the white rice. That is the reality. Some people like me, it's my rice of preference, but more people prefer parboiled rice. But to come to a point about guaranteed pricing, guaranteed prices, I don't think that we're going to go in that direction. There are other things that we do to support farmers. For example, we've kept the rental of land low. In some cases, the ministry, for whatever reason, has not been collecting rent, so it's been free. We've taken over a period of time duties and VAT on imported supplies and inputs have been removed. The incentives, we have access to ADB. There are other things that the government do to provide some support. Yes, of course, with more resources we could do more, but guaranteed pricing is not something. I'll tell you about Makoya market. You know, Makoya is NAMDEFCO is a statutory body. It has a board. And I'm a minister. I pay attention to what is going on. I receive, in the case of the daily wholesale market, I received a letter from somebody, very detailed letter. NAMDEFCO gave me a 3-page response. I sent it to the person and I said, NAMDEFCO, this is their response. And they've said to me by the end of March, they will try to resolve what you've said. So in other words, I leave the board to do what they're supposed to do. And from time to time, I go to Makoya, I talk to the farmers daily, and I myself follow what is being said and what is being discussed. And sometimes I have to intervene. Sometimes I have to give them time for something to work. But I will know when things are not working because, as I said, my community, my farmers are heavy users of Makoya market. As we improve infrastructure, you're able to improve lighting, you're able to introduce cameras that will be able to see how people behave. I know for a fact that law enforcement in both markets, we have problems with it, and in some cases it is the members of the police service who not providing the support. So you know, the people who are sworn to duty to do that are not doing it. It requires a special handling of the matter by a minister. But I take your concerns seriously. And most importantly, I think that we'd be able to improve your life and your family's life and your investment if we could deal with the matter of land tenure and if you provide us with information.
Honorable Minister, MP for Cardi Central, Dr. Everyone on the table. Mr. Minister, basically what I have is some information for you, not really a question. Where I am as Vice Chairman of the Hoover Television Corporation.
Right.
We have formed a committee called Agriculture Matters and Vending, ready to help the farmers of the Hoover Television region.
We as in the corporation?
The corporation, that is Hoover Television. And we use our equipment, our motor graders and backhoes and so on to help the farmers, because normally farmers will be sent to your ministry to assist with infrastructure and so on. So I'm really speaking about infrastructure, agriculture, access roads, drains and maybe ponds. But we are very much limited in our equipment that we have in the corporation. And more so we do grading to rehabilitate these agriculture access roads that would have been built a couple of years ago. For your own information, in the community of Tamana, Talpa Road, London Nuevo, there is a huge area that belongs to the state, it's really state lands, like Ms. Sichar and Ms. Gandung, last name.
What is it called?
It is a stone quarry. It's really state lands that was used once back in about 2002, 2003, back in Councillor Sahari Ubundu's days, and it was shut down by state lands. So I think that this quarry can be used to assist because we have available equipment in all the regional corporations. I understand you are constrained with a limited budget, but you have farmers who find it difficult to get into and out of their lands via the access roads. So you have available material that if you partner with the regional corporations, we can assist these farmers. So that's really just for your information.
Well, I'll tell you this, I have a very good relationship with the chairman and most of you, and I'll say that truthfully, I've never gotten a request from the corporation first to meet with the corporation, or I've never gotten a letter saying, Minister, we want to explore this. When I came in September 2015, not long after I went to, there was a, when Manu Benjamin was released from prison, he found his livelihood as a watchman in a quarry in Bish. In fact, a lot of us who know Bish growing up, it was really the only, apart from that, it was really the only economic activity. And that quarry produced significant amounts of car holders. And I went on the site with people from the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation and encouraged them to reopen that quarry. It is not a simple matter, but to reopen it. And as far as I know, somebody in the corporation was angry that I didn't invite them, and the matter did not move from there. And if I receive, I'll tell you this, National Quarries, I'm sure you've heard me talk about quarries. National Quarries has operated in this country for a long time without a valid mining license. And they've done that because in the 1980s, early 1980s, 92 I believe, when the cabinet approved the lease of the land for the establishment of those national quarries, the leases were never completed, and they've operated for years without leases. And it is only last year that cabinet was able to finally deal with all those national quarries sites and grant the leases which will allow them to apply for the mining licenses. I'm sure all of you know the story of EMBD operating for more than a decade without mining licenses, removing what could be billions of dollars in material without paying royalties, paying fees which were far lower than they should have been paying. And the reason that they could not get a mining license is because they never had a lease. Last year that was addressed also. EMBD has gotten mining approval for the mining licenses. They put out a tender, and that is the process. The process is that if there is a site, particularly a former quarry site, that has to be accessed, the entity that is interested in it must first approach the ministry through the Deputy Commissioner of State Lands, the Commissioner. They write to me, I send it on to them. First for the right to use the land. And when I get something like that, I go to my colleague Senator Khan, who is responsible for quarries, and I ask their technocrats to indicate how they feel about it. And once they indicate support for it, then we go to cabinet for approval for the lease, and that allows you to apply for your mining license. And whether you are a state entity, a corporation, wherever you are, the rules are the same. I remember there was a time when entities like Caroni and so on could do mining on their lands. But in the 1990s, under Mr. Pandey, a decision was taken to regulate that so that we could keep control of what is happening. And I recommend that we do that. I commend the initiative of the corporation, and this is something that could happen if we make it happen. Mr. Mohammed, my last question for the evening.
Good night all. All protocols observed. Just like state a few topics, not really questions or comments, just a few topics. So, livestock farmers within the last month. Genetic stock for the livestock sector. There are little or no genetic resources available for the small and large ruminant farmers to expand their herds. I am suggesting that we try to import some Jersey or Jamaica Hope heifers. With regard to small ruminants, import Anglo-Nubian Boer and Sainon breeds. Untimely livestock extension services. When farmers call AI service for insemination of their livestock, obviously, there are a lack of technical staff and vehicles for transport to accommodate this quick response call. So my suggestion or recommendation is to provide at least more transport vehicles. No dedicated livestock production extension services. County veterinary services deal with health and disease issues, which are very, very important. However, they are not totally equipped to advise on intensive or extensive livestock production. Hence, we need more livestock scientists like myself on board that can help with nutritional issues, engineering, housing, and environmental issues. The lack of available land for forage production. For ruminants to thrive, they need fiber to maintain, grow, and reproduce. There are not enough lands allocated for local forage production for ruminant industry. I am suggesting that we cultivate crops such as tricanterel, Ina, Gliricidia, mulberry, and acacia. Predatory larceny of livestock. Theft of livestock is very costly for small or subsistence farmers. My recommendation is that more security for small farmer holdings and a timely response by the predatory larceny squad. Cost of concentrate feeds. We do not make feed in Trinidad and Tobago. We buy raw materials, mix them, and distribute them. Hence, we cannot control our cost of production, which is usually around 70%. So I'm suggesting we plant our raw materials like corn, tropical legumes, and utilize fish meal. The lack of livestock production incentives. Well, I know you spoke about incentives earlier, so I'll just move on. The lack of dedicated markets for livestock production and products. Crop farmers have none left. Livestock farmers have nothing. We don't have anybody to represent us or help us sell our stuff. We need to establish a common and dedicated marketplace for the sale of livestock, products, meat, milk, eggs. Inaccurate data on livestock animal counts. CSO and other data collecting organizations have failed at collecting this accurate data, hence the misrepresentation of our agricultural GDP and potential. Lastly, I say this without a doubt, there's an incohesive link between the educated bodies, the public sector, and the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. One of the things in relation to livestock, one of the things I highlighted very early was that the ministry had not, well, the sector, but the ministry in particular had not evolved. And when you talk about genetic stock or breeding stock, there was a time when, and it applies across the board to extension services and those things, what we do for farmers training and those things. There was a time when you needed a ministry that provided training services. There was a time when you needed a ministry to provide extension services. And there was a time when you needed a ministry that provided breeding stock to farmers. I think that time has gone. And maybe about 20 years too far into doing that. And what I've been saying is that the state should not be raising animals, quite simply. We should not be minding animals, because when you think about the technical resources, the feed, the amount that is lost through pilferage and all those things, what the state should be doing, the state should be providing the opportunities for private farmers to operate. The most important thing we could do is to provide land. And where we have already provided land, to provide tenure for those lands. So Carlsfield, Wallerfield, those areas which were dedicated livestock areas, part of what happened in those areas was that simply because the leases had long expired and the farmers lost their motivation. So what we've done, for example, in a repo is a beautiful facility, 1,146 acres. I was surprised to find out that that is a research facility that really does not do much for farmers. As far as I'm concerned, we have enough tertiary institutions, we have enough opportunities for research, and we have enough opportunities to acquire the research that is required. So the decision to invite private investment in a repo was a deliberate decision to free up those resources. We have about 148 daily paid workers there. The place, they are all, no job is going to be lost in that arrangement. The first place those daily paid workers will go is on the forage farm in Monjolu, because I am sold on what my predecessor introduced, the forage farm. Monjolu, there is enough land to expand it. We've been running that using contract workers. When the contract expire or when the money finish, they go home. These workers could be deployed to Montreal in the first instance to build the forage farms. I was in Rambharat on Saturday. You may have seen my Facebook post visiting yet another livestock farmer who is dealing with the challenges, expanding, growing. But the more forage we have, the less reliant we are on imported feed. But more importantly, we are producing a better meat for the market. In that arrangement with our report, we also have addressed to some extent the genetic stock. So that PDP facility will be the place where genetic stock is provided to the farmers. I will say on the incentive, one of the things I thought about, and when you look at the guidelines for the incentive, you will see that I said the incentive is available for farmers who wish to import breeding stock. But as you listed, the ones which are appropriate, very important that farmers recognize that animals coming from non-temperate countries could pose problems. Choice of breeding stock, Jamaica has had a good experience in sourcing breeding stock and creating breeding stock. So that is something that is alive. Some years ago, I talked about embryo transplant. It is controversial, it is expensive, but I put it out there as an option. But as it is now, the ministry is heavily relied upon for AI services. We have not done it well, we've not done it consistently. And if we free up laborers and livestock assistants and vets to focus on providing what farmers need, then we are able to provide support for the local livestock sector. And I have said it, given time and space, I would not only deal with a report in that way, I will move to further reducing the ministry's involvement in raising animals and redeploy those resources to serving and supporting the farmers, as we've said. Livestock services, I've spoken about that. I'll tell you this, maybe one day you'll call me the Minister of Audit, but I don't do audits for the purpose of finding somebody to be charged for something. Audit is somebody coming in and taking an independent look at what you're doing. So as Minister, I've commissioned audit on the reforestation program, National Reforestation Program. 2 audits, it's allowed me to fix some of the problems in that program. I told you about the audit of flood assistance program. I did an audit on plant quarantine because I couldn't understand why it was taking 3 years. Somebody wanted to import some seeds, somebody wanted to import plants, and you take 3, 4, 5 years to get an import permit. And we got to the point now where the import permitting system is online. You can get an import in a week in most cases. The problem with it is that the plant quarantine officers do not want to use tablets. And I've said it publicly, they don't want to account for their time and their location and so on. So this audit provided me with the basis of making the changes in plant quarantine that will support you, the farmers. Recently, I've asked for an audit on vet services in the ministry. I've said that I had to deal with the issue of fake vets. I don't have a problem in my community, for example, ministry people. If we didn't have ministry people providing livestock support, we would not have been able to function in rural Trinidad and Tobago. But I also wanted to know what our vets are doing, because vets, in case you don't know, have the opportunity to earn more than their monthly salary by going to the airport. Every dog that enters the country has to be met by a vet. And if they do that during the normal working hours, it's free. If they do it outside those hours, it's $900 per animal. And that is a source of income for them. Containers with eggs, for example, that arrive in the country every 2 days. Eggs for table eggs. We're not doing a lot of that again because this country is self-sufficient in table eggs. But eggs for hatching. A vet must be present when the container comes. And I want to know if our vets are spending more of their time earning this $900 or more of their time supporting the farmers. And I've recently commissioned this audit. So I will be able to better to make decisions. I don't want to fine people and embarrass them, but you have to know what is going on. You have to analyze and to see what people are doing in order to improve your ability to deliver better services. I'm surprised that there's a lack of land available. If there's any farmer who wants additional land for forage, that is something that I will readily support, because as I said earlier, the more the traditional grass, I have been hearing about triclope since I was in Carani Limited, and the same way I've said, if Boabandi is so good, we would have had 100,000 acres under cultivation in this country. We should have had more triclope and so on. When we recently approved land for Central Farms, the duck farm in Central, when we approved land for their expansion, we approved 50 acres, 25 acres of which will go into grass for their animals, and they use a significant amount of silage. The more forage we could encourage, the more resilient our farmers would be, the more they're able to control final prices, but ultimately they'll be able to control the quality of their meat. Prayer, lastly, we've talked about that. The cost of concentrate feed, I mean, is something that we import. I leave it up to the experts. I know each livestock farmer creates their own product for their animals. Some use oyster shells, some use different things to create the final product. If we believe that it can be done locally, if we believe that there is a site that is required, if we believe that it's a project that the government may need to support, then I am open to the proposals. You see, I don't sit down and generate some things on the policy side. I generate some things, but I also depend on you to share your ideas and indicate to me this is something that some direction we could go. The issue of a dedicated market space for livestock, the farmers market, I'll tell you this. The one empty area I saw in the farmers market was fish, and the fishermen from Las Cuevas, the two of them who sell in the Savannah market, they do excellent. And the reality is that most Trinidadians not interested in going in the municipal market for fish, and most Trinidadians and Tobagonians not interested in scaling fish and gutting fish, and they're prepared to pay a price for a clean product that they could use, and the farmers market in Savannah have that option. There's also a lot of eggs. We had a poultry farmer once come into the market, came 1 week, brought ducks too. He didn't show up the next week, and a lot of people were cussing him, because if we could get people consistently to bring, now keep in mind, I shouldn't say it, keep in mind that there are laws related to the sale of vending on the whole and sale of livestock product, but it is something that we may not have to establish a separate market, but it's something we could encourage in the existing market, taking into consideration the need for refrigeration, product safety, food safety, handling and so on. But that is something, because in farmers market around the world, in Europe for example, as you go through the farmers market, you end up in a section where you get horse meat, rabbit, you get everything preserved, fresh, you get burger patties and a lot of things. On the issue of livestock, I will close with this point. Government also last year, towards the end of last year, approved the relocation of the most likely, you know, Imtiaz Khan's farm in St. Helena. I think you yourself had comments. The fact is that Imtiaz's farm had really outgrown its ability to grow. The animals were really under stress in those conditions. If you know Imtiaz's farm, the animals on one side, and then they have to go through the whole Carani watercourse and come back into the pens, and during the flood I already saw the difficulty in that happening. Government approved a 100-acre parcel on Rivulet Road in Couva for the relocation on that farm, mainly because Imtiaz is operating in a space, organic beef, where we have few livestock farmers, and he has a market already. With Masi, most of the organic beef you see in Masi is Imtiaz's beef, and then he has interest in the production of beef patties and lamb patties, and that is what a government does. A government that if you ever get a line from me, a letter from me, you see my closing line is let's make good farmers better farmers. I am not somebody who supports mega farms. I support mega farmers. I believe that if our farmers have the land, the security of tenure, and the support of the technical people in the ministry, they will do what they do best. I want to thank you very much, Dr. Tiwari. This has been an excellent forum, and if we could do this in 5 or 6 parts of the country, we will be doing well in terms of communicating and listening. I want to thank you for coming out and to making your contribution. Do not leave here without, I'll tell you this, it's like being in a party all night and watching a girl or a boy, and you leave without getting a phone number. You waste your time. And if you leave here tonight without registering your name and your contact information, your email, and saying what you came for, what intervention you need, that will go a long way towards helping us. I have to leave, I have another engagement. I want to thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, for actually staying an hour in addition to what you are catered for. Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause as he walks out, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to bring this session to a close now. The open forum at 7:30. Those that have individual concerns, please see the respective persons from the State Lands Engineering Division, the AO1 County Caroni. One person will filter you through. There are sandwiches and drinks available.
So what you will do with it, we follow it up. We don't make joke with that.